kidding, because I think I've crossed the line.
Oh, no. I'm so excited.
Yeah, it's exciting. I have a wife, she's a barrister, I'll be fine.
In the glamorous world of Hollywood, where flashing lights can turn anyone into a legend overnight only to drown them the very next day, there is one man who has walked through it all, with effortless charm, with eyes that seem to smile, and with a story far more complicated than the perfect gentleman image the public sees. George Clooney is not just the handsome star who once captivated millions through ER or Ocean's 11. He is also an artist who nearly collapsed after a devastating on-set injury. A man who carried 2 decades of loneliness after a broken marriage, and someone who shocked the world when he broke his vow of never marrying again to wed Amal Alamuddin, the brilliant human rights lawyer who turned his life into an entirely new chapter. From a childhood marked by Bell's palsy, which left half his face paralyzed, to standing on the Oscar stage with legs still aching from injuries, Clooney proved himself not by looks or fame alone, but through resilience and the ability to rise again after every fall. He is living proof of a paradox. While Hollywood often creates fleeting stars, Clooney became an enduring symbol, not only through his films, but also through his humanitarian spirit and the values he chose to pursue off-screen. The story of George Clooney is the story of a man who walked through both light and shadow, who chose humor to battle pain, who chose responsibility over glamour, and who ultimately found true meaning in love, family, and justice. And perhaps it is this very contrast between glory and darkness that has made him one of the most unforgettable faces of the modern world. George Clooney was born on May 6, 1961, in Lexington, Kentucky, into a family that was both ordinary and extraordinary. His father, Nick Clooney, was a journalist and a well-known local television host, while his mother, Nina Bruce, had once been crowned a beauty queen and later served her community on the city council. Young George grew up surrounded by laughter, studio lights, and dinner table conversations that often revolved around politics and social issues. It was clear from the start that art and media were woven into the very fabric of his childhood. Even more, Clooney's aunt was Rosemary Clooney, one of the most celebrated voices of the 1950s. Her stardom lit up the family name on the music charts, leaving the young boy in Lexington with both a burden and a source of inspiration. Yet his childhood was far from a perfect glow. At 13, Clooney was struck by Bell's palsy, a condition that left half his face paralyzed for months. For a teenager, it was not only a medical struggle, but also a deep psychological wound. At school, classmates mocked him, scrutinizing every distorted expression. In loneliness, he learned to use humor as a shield, turning ridicule into punchlines. Later, Clooney would often recall that this period taught him the defense mechanism of wit, a survival skill that would carry him through the cutthroat world of Hollywood. Alongside his health struggles, Clooney nurtured an intense dream of becoming an athlete. He grew up with baseball, idolizing major league stars, and once believed it would define his life. In 1977, at 16, he tried out for the Cincinnati Reds, but the door slammed shut in the very first round. Clooney himself admitted the rejection was a heavy blow, yet it forced him to confront reality. His baseball talent wasn't enough to build a future. The dream of the diamond field shattered, leaving a void that cinema would later, almost accidentally, begin to fill. After high school, Clooney enrolled at Northern Kentucky University to study journalism, later transferring to the University of Cincinnati. However, He never earned a degree. Instead, he took on a string of hard, blue-collar jobs. Door-to-door insurance salesman, tobacco cutter in the fields, supermarket stocker, even a shoe repairman. None of these promised glory, but they instilled patience and honed his ability to observe people, raw material that would one day fuel his acting. The young man from Kentucky learned to listen to everyday stories of working people, gathering life experience that would later allow him to portray characters on screen with rare authenticity. The turning point came not from a grand plan, but through family ties. His cousin, Miguel Ferrer, the son of Rosemary Clooney, introduced George to a few small television projects. That connection led to Clooney's first appearance in the miniseries Centennial, 1978. A blink-and-you-miss-it role. At first, he saw it as nothing more than a way to make some money. But the studio lights, the creative atmosphere, and the passionate people around him sparked a growing curiosity. The boy, once mocked for his half-paralyzed face, began to realize humor and charm weren't just defenses. They could be weapons of charisma. And from that moment, George Clooney's life veered toward Hollywood, a path where he would stumble, fall, rise again, and ultimately carve out his place as one of the great icons of modern cinema. George Clooney's career did not begin with the glamour of the Hollywood gentleman he would later become. In the late 1970s, thanks to an introduction from his cousin Miguel Ferrer, he landed minor roles in Centennial, 1978, and brief appearances in a few television programs. These were background roles, faces no one remembered. But for Clooney, they were a ticket into Hollywood, even if only through the narrowest of doors. After his small part in Centennial, 1978, he drifted through a string of television series, most of them short-lived and quickly forgotten by audiences. Clooney appeared in The Facts of Life, 1985 to 1987, as George Burnett, a handyman character written merely to fill gaps in the script. Later, he joined Baby Talk, 1991, a sitcom inspired by Look Who's Talking, but the show flopped disastrously, leaving him even more doubtful about his future. Throughout the 1980s and early 1990s, Clooney took on dozens of guest roles, from Murder, She Wrote, and The Golden Girls to Roseanne. These appearances were so fleeting that viewers could barely recall his name, but for Clooney, they were meager paychecks that allowed him to survive. He once said bluntly, "I would act in anything, as long as it paid the rent." At one point, he was so broke that he slept in a friend's closet in Los Angeles. It was a period when the lights of Hollywood almost never reached him. He even tried his hand at film with B-movies like Return of the Killer Tomatoes. 1988. The film was so bad it became a running joke, but Clooney considered it a valuable lesson. To survive in the industry, he had to be patient and endure even the most humiliating failures. Many times he thought of giving up, but always pushed the idea aside, partly because of a fragile belief that his moment would come, and partly because he admitted he wasn't good at anything else but becoming someone else on screen. The turning point arrived in 1994, when Clooney was invited to audition for Dr. Doug Ross in NBC's medical drama ER. At first, it was only a supporting role, a charming pediatrician with a complicated personal life. But once the show aired, Ross quickly won over viewers' hearts. Clooney delivered not just the allure of a handsome doctor in a white coat, but also the emotional depth of a man torn between compassion and his own flaws. The success of ER went far beyond expectations. The show became a global television phenomenon, transforming Clooney from a struggling actor into the brightest star of the 1990s television. Within just a few seasons, he graced the covers of every major magazine, from People to Time, and was hailed as the sexiest man alive. More importantly, ER became the launchpad that propelled him into the world of A-list cinema. But fame also came with immense pressure. Clooney realized that if he didn't pivot quickly, he would be forever typecast as a TV star. That's why, even while ER was still at its peak, he began seeking larger film projects. And from there, George Clooney's career entered a new chapter. A chapter of glory, awards, and the inevitable failures he would have to confront on the path to becoming a global icon. After establishing himself as a television star with ER, George Clooney decided to step into the realm of cinema, the ultimate challenge for any actor seeking lasting, iconic status. In 1996, he appeared in From Dusk Till Dawn, an action horror film written by Quentin Tarantino and directed by Robert Rodriguez. It was Clooney's first leading role on the big screen, portraying Seth Gecko, a violent, cunning, and ruthless criminal. The character was the complete opposite of Dr. Doug Ross and took audiences by surprise. Although the film sparked controversy for its strange blend of genres, it was a commercial success and marked Clooney as a fresh new presence in Hollywood. That same year, Clooney tried his hand at romantic comedy with One Fine Day, co-starring Michelle Pfeiffer. The film was not a masterpiece, but the natural chemistry between the two stars left an impression, presenting Clooney as the embodiment of a gentleman, polished yet approachable. His ability to shift between a gritty outlaw and a charming romantic lead made him a strong contender for diverse roles. 1997 brought a major test. With The Peacemaker, Clooney took his first lead role in a big-budget action film, starring alongside Nicole Kidman. It was the very first film produced by the newly founded DreamWorks studio, so the pressure was immense. While the movie did not receive strong critical acclaim, its moderate commercial success was enough to cement Clooney's position as a box office draw. But that same year also delivered a heavy blow with Batman and Robin. Clooney's turn as the Caped Crusader was harshly criticized, and the film is often remembered as a superhero disaster. Clooney has repeatedly taken responsibility for its failure, even joking that he killed Batman. The debacle became a profound lesson. He needed to be more careful in choosing projects, avoiding the lure of superficial glamour. Fortunately, redemption came quickly. In 1998, Clooney starred in Out of Sight alongside Jennifer Lopez, marking his first collaboration with director Steven Soderbergh. The film received widespread critical acclaim, and Clooney proved he could fully embody the role of a charismatic yet complex criminal. It was not only a professional triumph, but also the beginning of a fruitful creative partnership with Soderbergh, one of the most important collaborations of his career. Building on this foundation, Clooney entered the iconic Oceans franchise, Oceans 11, 2001, Oceans 12, 2004, and Oceans 13, 2007. As Danny Ocean, a suave, witty, and cunning thief, Clooney defined the archetype of the gentleman con man for an entire cinematic generation. The trilogy was a massive box office success, grossing billions worldwide, and solidified Clooney as an A-list movie star, as well as the natural leader of an ensemble cast that included Brad Pitt, Matt Damon, and Julia Roberts. Danny Ocean became more than a character. He evolved into a pop culture symbol of charm mixed with audacity. Yet behind the polished smile and sophisticated image, Clooney also had edgier moments. During the filming of Three Kings, 1999, he reportedly clashed physically with director David O. Russell after witnessing Russell verbally and physically mistreat crew members. The incident made headlines and painted Clooney as someone unafraid to defend fairness, even if it meant confronting a notoriously difficult director. It was one of the rare times the public saw him lose his composure, but it also revealed his firm boundaries regarding respect. At the same time, Clooney became known as Hollywood's prank king. He was notorious for elaborate practical jokes on friends. He once hid Brad Pitt's passport, leaving him stranded at an airport, and regularly pulled tricks that had entire film crews laughing. During Ocean's 11, Julia Roberts famously received a salary of just $20 a day from Clooney as part of one of his playful stunts. These anecdotes revealed a more down-to-earth side of him, funny, approachable, and able to lighten the atmosphere in an industry notorious for its stress. From those years of struggling through bit parts, Clooney had finally cemented himself as a true A-list movie star thanks to this string of successes. But more importantly, he began to discover another path. He was not only the handsome face of Hollywood, but also an artist with a deeper ambition: to use cinema as a vehicle to say something meaningful about society, politics, and the human condition. George Clooney's defining turning point came in 2005 with Syriana. In this complex political thriller, he portrayed a fallen CIA operative, a role that earned him the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor. Yet behind the glory lay an ordeal that nearly cost him his life. During filming, Clooney suffered a severe accident. A hard fall while shooting a torture scene tore his spinal dura, causing spinal fluid leakage. He endured excruciating pain, debilitating headaches so intense he could not stand upright, and at times even contemplated ending his life. After months of surgeries and treatments, Clooney gradually recovered, though the injury left him with chronic pain for the rest of his life. That ordeal redefined his purpose. Instead of chasing fame alone, he resolved to use film and his influence to tell stories of meaning, reflecting on moral and social dilemmas. That same year, he unveiled his passion project, Good Night and Good Luck. It was not just a film, but an artistic declaration. Clooney co-wrote, directed, and produced the work, which recounted journalist Edward R. Murrow's challenge against Senator McCarthy's anti-communist witch hunts. Shot in austere black and white, the film earned 6 Oscar nominations, including Best Picture and Best Director. It was a statement that Clooney was more than a movie star. He was a filmmaker of conviction, unafraid to side with truth and justice. In the years that followed, Clooney consistently chose projects rich in moral weight, so much so that critics coined the phrase, the Clooney brand. Whenever he appeared, audiences could expect not only an engaging performance, but also a story that posed urgent questions about ethics, society, and humanity. In 2007, he took on the role of Michael Clayton, a corporate fixer tasked with covering up scandals for powerful clients. The film exposed the rot within the corporate world, where money and influence overshadow justice. Clooney's portrayal of a man torn between duty and conscience was hailed as one of his most nuanced performances. The film received 7 Oscar nominations, with Clooney himself nominated for Best Actor, affirming his standing not just as a box office star, but as an actor of true substance. By 2009, Up in the Air placed him in the role of Ryan Bingham, a corporate downsizer whose life revolved around constant travel and transient connections. The film captured the anxieties of globalization, the profound loneliness hidden beneath endless connections. Clooney delivered a restrained performance that conveyed emptiness and isolation. It earned him the Golden Globe for Best Actor and another Oscar nomination, solidifying his reputation as the storyteller of an era of existential crisis. 2 years later, in 2011, Clooney moved audiences again with The Descendants. As Matt King, a husband suddenly forced to confront his comatose wife's betrayal while raising 2 daughters, Clooney embodied fragility, helplessness, and heartbreak. It was among his most complex roles, tragic yet deeply humane, earning him another Oscar nomination and a Golden Globe win. In 2013, he appeared in Gravity alongside Sandra Bullock. Though not the central figure, his astronaut Matt Kowalski provided a poignant dimension, a human presence in the vast emptiness of space, embodying calm, humor, and kindness. Clooney's performance added emotional balance to the film's spectacular visuals. These projects not only reinforced his credibility, but also showcased him as an artist, choosing stories that carried messages beyond mere entertainment. Together with his close friend Grant Heslov, Clooney co-founded Smokehouse Pictures. Their greatest achievement came with Argo, 2012, directed by Ben Affleck, with Clooney and Heslov as co-producers. The film won the Oscar for Best Picture, making Clooney one of the rare artists to win Oscars both for acting and producing, a testament to his comprehensive stature in cinema. In the years that followed, Clooney maintained an impressive pace, experimenting as actor, director, and producer. In 2014, he released The Monuments Men, a film he directed, co-wrote, and starred in. Set during World War II, it told the story of soldiers and scholars tasked with saving Europe's art treasures from the Nazis. With a star-studded cast including Matt Damon, Cate Blanchett, and Bill Murray, the film was expected to balance entertainment and history. While box office returns were solid, critical reception was divided. Some felt Clooney had taken on too much, diluting the film's sharpness. Still, no one questioned his respect for art or his courage in spotlighting a lesser-known chapter of history. After a few years focused on family and humanitarian work, Clooney returned to directing with The Midnight Sky, 2020, his first major collaboration with Netflix. A mix of science fiction and apocalypse drama, the film featured Clooney as Augustine, an aging, ailing scientist struggling to warn a space crew of Earth's impending doom. While praised for its visuals and ambition, the narrative received mixed reactions. Some found it overly heavy with philosophy. Yet Clooney's willingness to step outside his comfort zone demonstrated his restless search for new forms of storytelling at a stage when many stars would have retired. In 2022, Clooney surprised audiences by returning to romantic comedy with Ticket to Paradise, reuniting with Julia Roberts after more than a decade since the Ocean's films. The story followed divorced parents conspiring to stop their daughter from marrying a Balinese man after a brief courtship. Their sparkling chemistry and witty banter revived memories of the golden era of the 90s and 2000s rom-coms. The film's commercial success proved Clooney's enduring charm, even in his 60s. A year later, he reaffirmed his directorial standing with The Boys in the Boat, 2023, based on the true story of the University of Washington rowing team that won gold at the 1936 Berlin Olympics. It was an inspiring sports drama celebrating teamwork and resilience amid historical turmoil. Clooney chose the project not only for its historical significance, but also for its message of perseverance and collective belief, values he has consistently championed in both his career and life. From war epics to apocalyptic sci-fi, from romantic comedy to sports drama, Clooney has shown remarkable range, unafraid of failure and unwilling to cling to any safe formula. In every genre, he left a mark. At times, the serious chronicler of history, at others, the witty gentleman or the ambitious director delivering humanist messages. This versatility has secured his unique place in Hollywood, not only as a veteran star, but also as an artist who continually reinvents himself. Taken together, these works, from political dramas to lighthearted romance, demonstrate that George Clooney is no longer merely the sexiest man alive, but a mature artist willing to use his career to challenge himself and to say something of value to the world. After such a wide range of projects, looking back at George Clooney's personal life makes it clear that he was never surrounded by glamour alone. Before becoming the model husband by Amal Alamuddin's side, he had already gone through a short-lived marriage filled with scars. George Clooney met Talia Balsam in 1984, when he was still a struggling actor chasing small supporting roles, while she was already a familiar face on American television. Talia was not only beautiful, but also the daughter of Oscar-winning actor Martin Balsam, raised in an artistic environment and more experienced than Clooney. To him at that time, Talia was both a colleague and a mature woman who could offer the stability he longed for. They began dating when Clooney had yet to achieve any fame, often living in modest rented apartments, while Talia was accustomed to the spotlight. That difference did not deter him. On the contrary, it drove him to prove himself. After several years together, their love grew strong enough for Clooney to believe that marriage would bring him the stable family he had lacked in his youth. In 1989, they married in Las Vegas. It wasn't an extravagant wedding, but Clooney carried immense hope that this would mark the beginning of a new life, one where he could build a career while preserving a home. Yet the marriage quickly slipped into conflict, as Clooney began receiving more professional opportunities. His hectic schedule kept him away from home. He threw himself into endless auditions and long filming days, openly driven by his ambition to break out as a star. Meanwhile, Talia longed for a settled family life, with time devoted to nurturing their bond. The difference in priorities grew sharper with time. Clooney later admitted that he simply was not ready for marriage. Instead of sharing and balancing, he chose to neglect his wife's needs in favor of focusing entirely on his career. The pressures of acting, constant financial struggles, and underlying insecurity left him under heavy stress. Clooney recalled that he developed stomach ulcers during this period, a sign of the turmoil and exhaustion consuming him both physically and emotionally. Another source of pain was the issue of children. Clooney and Talia never had any together, and for her, that absence only deepened the sense that their marriage lacked a lasting bond. They grew apart, their conversations shrinking, silence stretching longer and longer in their shared home. By 1993, just 4 years after their wedding, they officially divorced. For Talia, it was the inevitable end of an unbalanced marriage. For Clooney, it was a wound he would look back on with regret. He would later admit candidly, "I absolutely was not ready. That was my fault, entirely." After his brief marriage to Talia Balsam, George Clooney entered a chapter that lasted nearly 2 decades. A chapter of glamour, freedom, but also emptiness. He became Hollywood's most eligible bachelor, the man always seen with beautiful women on his arm, but never tied down for long. Clooney dated British supermodel Lisa Snowdon, then Italian actress and model Elisabetta Canalis, and later former wrestler Stacy Keibler. These romances played out on red carpets and in the lenses of paparazzi, yet none ever led to marriage. It seemed to fit the firm declaration Clooney once made to the press: "I will never marry again, and I will never have children." That statement acted like a shield, reinforcing the public image of Clooney as carefree and unattached. But behind the rakish smile and the perfectly tailored tuxedos, he carried a lingering loneliness, a void that fleeting relationships could never fill. Alongside the glamour, Clooney could not escape controversy. The media once buzzed with rumors that he had undergone plastic surgery to preserve his looks. Rather than dodge the speculation, Clooney dismissed it with humor. "I just had the fat sucked out of my, turkey neck." His wit made him even harder to pin down. Yet his bluntness also meant that his political remarks sometimes stirred backlash, turning him into a lightning rod for criticism from both the public and the press. When he and friends launched the tequila brand Casamigos, the near $1 billion sale proved his business acumen, though skeptics claimed the success owed more to his celebrity than to the quality of the liquor. In private life, Clooney had an especially unique companion, Max, a 300-pound pot-bellied pig who lived with him from the late 1980s until 2006. Max was not just a pet, but, as Clooney once joked, the longest relationship of my life. For nearly 20 years, Max ate with him, slept alongside him, and became a true family member, a bond no romance ever outlasted. Yet Clooney never shut himself away in solitude. Beneath the spotlight, he remained generous and loyal to his friends. In 2013, he famously prepared 14 suitcases, each filled with $1 million in cash, and gave them to 14 close friends who had stood by him since his struggling days. The story of the 14 suitcases, $14 million, became Hollywood legend, proof that even though Clooney had the reputation of a playboy, he valued loyalty and was willing to share his success with those who had believed in him from the very beginning. It was during this period, seemingly empty yet colorful, marked by fleeting romances, a loyal pig, and enduring friendships, that Clooney encountered his fateful turning point. Not long after, he met Amal Alamuddin, the woman who would make him break his bachelor vow and open a new chapter in his life. And then, just as all of Hollywood believed George Clooney would forever remain the eternal bachelor, a handsome, charming man unwilling to commit, fate brought him to Amal Alamuddin. It was the summer of 2013 at his villa on Lake Como, where Clooney often retreated from the noise to enjoy peace and quiet. A mutual friend brought Amal along, unannounced, simply for a casual introduction. But the moment she stepped into the room, Clooney felt the atmosphere shift. Standing before him was not another starlet or a woman accustomed to the flash of cameras, but someone with a rare intellectual beauty, of Lebanese heritage. An international human rights lawyer who had taken on major cases involving governments, global institutions, and controversial political figures. Her confident smile, graceful presence, and refined yet approachable elegance set her apart completely. She did not need to try to impress. Her intelligence and natural charisma did it for her. In that instant, Clooney, who had dated countless famous women from supermodels to actresses and TV personalities, realized he was facing something entirely different. Amal was not just beautiful. She was intellect, strength, and the embodiment of a world Clooney had never entered. Their first conversation quickly moved beyond small talk. They spoke of world affairs, justice, art, and even the little things of everyday life. Clooney, long known for his quick wit, found himself matched. Amal was just as sharp and funny. The conversation stretched late into the night, and when Amal finally stood to leave, Clooney turned to his friends and admitted, "I think I just met the woman of my dreams." From that evening onward, they began exchanging emails. Not short texts or shallow flirtations, but long letters spanning pages, full of intelligence, playful sarcasm, and genuine curiosity about each other's lives. Each email became an invisible thread pulling two people from seemingly opposite worlds, a Hollywood star and an international human rights lawyer, closer together. Only a year after that fateful meeting, Clooney did something he had once sworn he would never do: marry again. In April 2014, at his private home, he surprised Amal by kneeling with a 7-carat emerald-cut diamond ring. He later recalled the moment with his trademark humor. "I was on my knee for 20 minutes because she kept thinking I was joking." But Amal said yes, and their love story officially entered a new chapter, one of devotion and commitment. 6 months later, in late September 2014, Venice, the city of love, became the stage for one of the most lavish and romantic weddings of the decade. It was more than a ceremony. It was a cultural and social event followed in detail by media worldwide. White ribbon gondolas ferried celebrity guests: Cindy Crawford, Matt Damon, Bono, Bill Murray, Anna Wintour, through the Emerald Canals to the Aman Canal Grand Hotel, where the wedding took place. Clooney, the perennial bachelor, once crowned the sexiest man alive, appeared in a perfectly tailored Giorgio Armani tuxedo, exuding elegance and calm. Amal, radiant in a custom Oscar de la Renta lace gown, embodied both timeless tradition and modern grace. Every step they took against the golden Venetian sunset seemed like a cinematic frame that could never be recreated. After the lavish wedding in Venice, George Clooney and Amal Alamuddin's marriage quickly became the focus of worldwide media attention. People were fascinated not only because Clooney had finally succumbed to marriage after decades of being Hollywood's most eligible bachelor, but also because Amal was so completely different from the women who had come before her. An international human rights lawyer, sharp, independent, proud, and with a brilliant career of her own, Amal transformed Clooney from being just a movie star into a man who prioritized family over Hollywood's spotlight. From the very beginning, they set an unspoken rule: never to be apart for more than a week, no matter how busy their schedules. Clooney might be filming in Europe, Amal might be in court at an international tribunal, yet they always found a way to bridge the distance. This discipline of the heart helped their marriage withstand relentless tabloid scrutiny. In 2017, Clooney's life entered an entirely new chapter when Amal gave birth to twins, Ella and Alexander, at a hospital in London. At 56, Clooney became a father for the first time, an experience he had long believed would never happen in his life. The man who once declared he was not suited for marriage or children suddenly found himself waking early to make bottles, cradling babies in his arms, and learning to endure sleepless nights filled with their cries. In interviews afterward, Clooney admitted, his voice trembling, "From the moment I saw those two kids, I knew everything in my life had to be rearranged. Career, fame, money, all of it came second to them. He recalled the moving moment he first heard the twins cry together, what he called the most beautiful music of his life. From that day forward, images of Clooney pushing a double stroller along the paths of his Lake Como villa or sitting on the grass playing with his children became familiar in the press. The man once hailed as Hollywood's most charming bachelor now appeared in rolled-up white shirts, jeans, and a gentle smile as he lifted his children into the air. Friends remarked they had never seen Clooney so radiant, as if he had finally found his missing piece. Amal, too, has often shared how unexpectedly devoted Clooney became as a father, changing diapers himself, rocking the twins to sleep, reading bedtime stories with theatrical flair to make Ella and Alexander giggle. Clooney admitted he had learned patience, something Hollywood had never taught him. For him, those moments were every bit as valuable as an Oscar, because they gave him the sense of truly living. Yet, with the spotlight also came shadows. In the years following their wedding, rumors of cracks in their marriage, separations, even multi-billion-dollar divorce speculations constantly circulated in tabloids. Sometimes the stories claimed they fought over work. Other times, they pointed to long stretches apart. Some even suggested Clooney struggled to adapt to Amal's intense legal and political world. But whenever the gossip flared, the couple would quietly appear together, on the Cannes red carpet or at humanitarian fundraisers, demonstrating that their love remained steadfast. Clooney often dismissed the rumors with humor. "If you believed everything the tabloids said about us, then I must have married and divorced Amal at least 15 times by now." It was their way of facing scandal together, neither avoiding it nor letting it consume them, that built a strong armor around their marriage. Amal continued to shine as a lawyer. Clooney maintained his film career and humanitarian work, and their homes in Lake Como, London, and Los Angeles remained the warm anchors of their family life. From family life with his twins to the world beyond his front door, George Clooney presents himself as both an ordinary man and one of Hollywood's most sophisticated, wealthy, and powerful figures. He has not only lived by his art, but also proven his ability to build a vast financial empire. In recent years, Clooney's net worth has been estimated at around $500 to $600 million, much of it from acting, directing, and producing fees, as well as lucrative endorsement deals. His contract with Nespresso alone has earned him more than $40 million, not to mention collaborations with Omega, Fiat, Martini, and other luxury brands. But the biggest windfall came from Casamigos Tequila, the brand Clooney co-founded with Randa Gerber and Mike Meldman. In 2017, Diageo acquired Casamigos for nearly $1 billion, with Clooney personally pocketing about $233 million before taxes. A movie star suddenly became a tequila billionaire, a testament to his foresight and instinct for business trends. Alongside his career and investments, Clooney has also built a global real estate empire. At its heart is Villa Oleandra on Lake Como, a historic estate once owned by the Hines family, now valued at over 100 million euros, along with the adjoining Villa Margherita. In the UK, Clooney and Amal own the Berkshire Manor in Sonning-on-Thames, worth around £10 million, a retreat far from Hollywood's spotlight. In the US, the couple's Studio City home, purchased in 1995 for $2.2 million, was reportedly sold for over $14 million to to Olivia Culpo and Christian McCaffrey, a detail still awaiting full confirmation. They also own a sprawling vineyard estate in Provence, Domaine du Canadel, Brignoles, France, purchased in 2021 for about 8 million euros. Previously, they had a vacation property in Los Cabos, Mexico, which they sold in 2016. Clooney's personal passions reflect his unique lifestyle. He was once a notorious motorcycle enthusiast with a collection of Harley-Davidsons and custom choppers. But after 2 serious accidents in 2007 and 2018, he announced his retirement from riding. His car collection has included a Tesla Roadster, later auctioned for charity, a Porsche 911 Carrera 2, a Lexus LS, and the ultra-rare electric Tango T600. Behind all the luxury, Clooney has chosen a slower, more disciplined way of living. After the severe injury he suffered filming Syriana, he has had to cope with chronic pain, forcing him to quit smoking, limit alcohol consumption to moderation, and follow a Mediterranean diet. At Lake Como, he is often seen cycling along the shoreline, reading and writing scripts, a balanced lifestyle far quieter than his glamorous bachelor years. Behind the image of a glamorous movie star, George Clooney carries another role, that of a global citizen, willing to step out of the spotlight to confront some of the world's darkest crises. In 2006, during the humanitarian catastrophe in Darfur, Clooney was not content to sit at glittering charity galas in Beverly Hills. He went directly to the devastated region, entering refugee camps and witnessing the hollow eyes of children who had lost their homes and families. Returning to the U.S., he brought those haunting images before Congress, testifying and urging action. He also spoke at the United Nations, declaring that the world could not turn a blind eye to genocide. From that experience, Clooney, along with Don Cheadle, Matt Damon, Brad Pitt, and Jerry Weintraub, founded Not on Our Watch, an organization dedicated to drawing global attention and resources to overlooked humanitarian crises. A decade later, having found peace in his marriage with Amal, Clooney took another step forward. In 2016, the couple established the Clooney Foundation for Justice, a testament to how personal love could be transformed into social power. With its Trial Watch initiative, the foundation monitors unjust trials around the world, defending journalists, minorities, and dissidents under threat. Beyond observation, it provides direct legal support to victims of human rights abuses, turning words of advocacy into tangible action. In the same spirit, Clooney co-founded The Sentry, an international initiative aimed at cutting off the blood money, the financial flows that fuel dictatorships and wars. If Not on Our Watch appealed to compassion, The Sentry struck directly at the lifeline of conflict: money. This was Clooney proving that he was not only an artist with empathy, but also a sharp humanitarian strategist. His compassion has reached beyond Africa. After the 2010 Haiti earthquake, Clooney spearheaded the Hope for Haiti Now telethon, raising hundreds of millions of dollars for victims. In 2017, as the Syrian refugee crisis worsened, he and Amal donated significant funds to build schools for Syrian children in Lebanon, children at risk of losing both their childhood and their future if denied education. From the refugee camps of Darfur to Syrian classrooms, from global television screens to the halls of the United Nations, Clooney has been present. He has spoken not only about human rights and press freedom, but has also leveraged his fame to force powerful nations to listen. These efforts have been recognized with prestigious humanitarian honors. The Cecil B. DeMille Award, 2015 at the Golden Globes, the Bob Hope Humanitarian Award at the Emmys, and more. Yet for Clooney, these were never the ultimate goal. Trophies are mere symbols. What he seeks is real-world change. With Clooney, there exists a striking paradox. On screen, he may be the suave con man of Ocean's 11 or the lonely lawyer of Michael Clayton, but off-screen, he is the man steadfastly pursuing justice for the voiceless. It is this fusion that transforms George Clooney from a Hollywood star into a living emblem of our times, a place where cinema and humanity converge. In his 60s, George Clooney still refuses to slow down. While many of his peers have chosen a more comfortable lifestyle, he continues to challenge himself with new journeys. In early 2025, Clooney surprised audiences by stepping onto the Broadway stage for the very first time with Good Night and Good Luck, a play he adapted from his own 2005 classic film. This time, Clooney was not just behind the scenes. He embodied Edward R. Murrow, the legendary journalist who dared to confront McCarthyism. The performances at the Winter Garden Theater became a phenomenon, breaking box office records and earning Clooney 5 Tony nominations, including Best Actor. It was not only an artistic triumph, but also a declaration. He still has much to say, and he wants to say it in an entirely new way. Alongside the stage, cinema has also witnessed a Clooney in constant motion. In 2024, he reunited with Brad Pitt in John Watts's Wolves, a film that premiered in Venice and went on to become one of the biggest hits on Apple TV+. Although the sequel was canceled, Wolves proved that Clooney is unafraid to experiment with new genres, even when audiences have grown accustomed to his image as the elegant gentleman. Not stopping there, Clooney and Grant Heslov expanded into television with The Agency, an adaptation of the French series Le Bureau des Légendes, which premiered in late 2024 and was quickly renewed for a second season. But to see Clooney only through the lights of stage and screen would be incomplete. During the same period, he and Amal remained deeply committed to humanitarian projects. Lake Como, long associated with Clooney's romantic image, has now also become a philanthropic gathering place where the couple host retreats bringing together intellectuals and artists to raise funds for the Clooney Foundation for Justice. Their annual event, the Albies, honoring courageous defenders of justice, continues to grow in influence, carrying the Clooney-Amal name far beyond Hollywood, tied firmly to the responsibility of global citizenship. Even amid his busy schedule, Clooney still devotes time to art house cinema. Through Smokehouse Pictures, he is producing J. Kelly, a film starring Adam Sandler and Laura Dern, slated for release in late 2025. At the same time, the documentary Surviving Ohio State, which he co-produced, created waves at the Tribeca Film Festival, reigniting debate about abuse scandals within American universities. And as a mark of time, Clooney is no longer the seemingly invincible, ageless man. Returning to Venice in 2025 to promote J. Kelly, he was forced to miss several events due to sinusitis. A small detail, yet a reminder to audiences that behind the spotlight, he is still a human being, entering a stage of life where health itself becomes a challenge. Today, Clooney chooses a life of balance, maintaining his career, being a husband and father, and continuing his social engagement. This image, an artist tireless yet never blindly chasing fame, has made him one of the rare Hollywood stars who retains both respect and genuine affection from the public. Looking back at George Clooney's journey, it becomes clear that his legacy is not confined to his roles or the golden Oscar statues. What endures more powerfully is the way he redefined what it means to be a Hollywood star in the 21st century. Clooney refused to settle for being just a handsome leading man, an image that shadowed him for decades. Instead, he shaped himself into a multifaceted artist, actor, director, producer, political voice, and a global citizen committed to justice. In cinema, Clooney introduced a new model, an A-list star unafraid to take on challenging projects with sharp social critique. Syriana, Good Night, and Good Luck, Michael Clayton, and Up in the Air not only enriched his career, but also established the Clooney brand, stories that compel audiences to reflect on power, ethics, and truth. As a producer, his Oscar-winning success with Argo proved his ability to merge art with political vision, creating works that were both entertaining and historically weighty. In his personal life, his marriage to Amal Alamuddin has itself become part of his legacy. From Hollywood's most famous eternal bachelor, Clooney transformed into a devoted husband and father, while together with Amal forming a power couple that bridges art and law, Hollywood, and the United Nations. That bond not only reshaped his own life, but also sent a broader message. Love and family are not obstacles to a career. They can be the foundation for reaching even further. In humanitarian work, Clooney has left his mark with the Clooney Foundation for Justice, Trial Watch, and The Sentry, initiatives that carry not only his name, but also measurable impact. Hundreds of journalists, activists, and minority communities around the world have received protection thanks to these programs. Here, Clooney has shown he is not merely a cultural icon, but also a driving force for global justice. Above all, Clooney's influence lies in a rare equilibrium. He is both the archetypal star, charming, talented, magnetic, and a man who knows how to exercise restraint, how to pause to care for his family, and how to use his spotlight to illuminate the world's darkest corners. In a Hollywood often criticized for its frivolity, Clooney stands as proof that fame can coexist with responsibility, that glamour can be transformed into a force for social change. In his 60s, George Clooney has nothing left to prove. He no longer chases the spotlight or the charts, but instead lives in a rare balance between family, art, and civic responsibility. What people remember about him is not the awards, but the way he carries himself with composure in a chaotic world, still humorous, still outspoken, still committed. Perhaps it is this simplicity in the way he lives, the perseverance in his dedication, and the refinement in each choice that have made Clooney an irreplaceable icon. He is not only the face of a generation, but also living proof that behind all the glamour, what truly endures is character. And what about you? When you think of George Clooney, what stands out most to you? A role, a remark, or an action that earned your admiration? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to follow the channel so you won't miss other inspiring stories about Hollywood's timeless icons.